None of this happened if it wasn't for people.
Yeah.
People came, discovered the slate, people hewed it out, people came here for work, they built the town, they established their own culture, they built chapels, they formed choirs, and the people now have gone, you know, the war came, the choirs closed, and we're left with a town that the people are having to find something else to do. So, at the end, what I say, because it's a World Heritage Site, I say it's got to have unique, universal value, if it's a World Heritage. The unique universal value of this particular piece of world history resides not in grandeur, nobility or high art, but in the rubbles and remains of industry. It's people, their culture, their useful arts, and in all that they achieve. So it all comes down to people and to quarries and the town. It's not looking at grandeur. There's no Taj Mahal, there's no great, beautiful building here. It's the absolute opposite of that, and I'm proud that I'm able to say this is what has happened here, proud of the fact that it's been acknowledged worldwide. So it's a working class achievement. The war finished when I was 10, and there was a vast rebuilding programme, repairs. As early as 1942, which was 3 years into the war, the government issued a little pamphlet, a very slim pamphlet, explaining that at the end of the war, whatever the outcome, meaning victory or defeat, there would be a vast rebuilding programme. Vast. And what they would do, they wouldn't be repairing things, putting it all back as it was. This was an opportunity to build for the future, just as Wren had suggested after the Great Fire. Don't put all these little courts and pokey little lanes. You know, build, think big, think modern. And it began to happen in the early 50s. Coventry was devastated, where I was in Coventry then. In the early 50s, and there was the Festival of Britain, which was a wonderful exhibition of the future, and I was thrilled by this, and I wanted to be part of it. I wanted my art to be useful. I didn't think painting pictures was any use at all. I wanted to be there shaping the future, using my art usefully. So I took up design, finished up at the Royal College. That brought me to the 60s, and by the 60s, unfortunately, it wasn't a good period for architecture. It became very boxy, but that was only one thing. The other thing was that a lot of the old Victorian stuff, which was very, very good and solid, was being destroyed to make way for this new world. And that really upset me. Good buildings, good sound, interesting, beautifully crafted buildings were being destroyed. And so I turned against designing. I was now designing. So that's how I turned from designing to recording in the 60s. And it was recording quite by chance, whatever I came across, wherever I was. And then came on holiday to Blaenau, and I was so taken up. It's the most concentrated, the greatest concentration of industrial archaeology I have ever come across. You know, wonderful walking country. And then the mill, found the mill, and although it was derelict and poor condition, it was my chance to be myself and to do what I wanted to do. So I left London came here, camped, built a shed against one of the windows and started drawing. I had to keep on designing to make a living and teaching. But the recording took over, and that's what I've been doing ever since. Usually HB and 2B, and always watercolour. And wherever I can, I work on site. Both of these have been done on site. I think there's an S there. If it's an S, it means it's drawn on site. It's the best way to do it. Oh, and then ink. I take a repeat graph pen and watercolour. The hard work comes in finding the best view, settling down, and getting it drawn, outlined in pencil. And once I've got to that stage, I forget the anxiety, and the drawing just sort of takes over. And I put ink or put watercolour on, and then I finally do ink touches to strengthen it up. That's the best way to work because it's the quickest. There's no editing. Can't imagine working from photographs because you take the photograph, you have to wait for them to develop. Then you're having to piece the photographs together. It's just too. Whereas if it's all there in front of you, if you can't understand it, you can walk closer and take a closer look. The light is always changing, and this is one of the things, if we move along, and by the time the light changed, the form of the pit had changed. I thought I'd got it, understood it, and then as the sun went round, it changed, and I don't know what I did. I think it just gave up on it and drew it as I thought it was. But this was, this had been an underground mine, and they'd robbed the pillars. These are the pillars. You've heard of the phrase robbing the pillars? Okay. They left pillars to support the roof. They would do a 60-foot chamber and then leave a 60-foot pillar, and that would support the roof. But then when it became more difficult to work, or they had to go deeper, they started diminishing the pillars, what they call robbing the pillars. And it was a risky thing because at some point it would mean that the roof could fall in. Yeah. And that's what had happened here. They'd robbed these pillars, and this roof here, that's a bit of the roof, had fallen in and gone through one floor into another floor below. And that's what's happened here. It doesn't have the smart atmosphere of an art gallery. So it's in an industrial drawings, in an industrial building, in an industrial setting. And you look out of the window, and there it is. So you can either touch the item, look at it, and see it or see it out there and go from here and walk it. Amongst the wheels, you'd have to have a temperature code and humidity control. And Carol and I decided that, it's far better to be able to see up into the roof. And I remember we were talking about it in bed, and I said, I had this dream. I had a boat. I didn't have a boat. There was a boat here, clinker-built little boat with a mast. The mast went up into the roof. And I said, I had this dream, and I think the idea of the mast going up, taking your eye up into the roof is really worth seeing. And Carol said, yes, it would be nice to see the whole roof and everything, the whole setting. And fortunately, colour laser copying came available. So we were able to display the pictures in an environment that you wouldn't be able to display original watercolours in. And it means you get a much more rounded, more complete environment. There's nothing precious about it. That's what I don't want. Because nothing that the work people who created all this, there was nothing precious. It was done with rigorous practicality, and yet it's beautiful. The quarry system in Blaenau, it isn't surrounded in a circle. It's only a shallow arc around the northern side, rather like an eyebrow over an eye, which extends from Croeso Tramway. Croeso Tramway in the west, over the Arc, around Blaenau, to Bach Quarry and its village. It had a village in the quarry with its own schoolmistress. And that is a distance of 6.8 miles, nearly 11 kilometres, and it comprises 20 quarries. And I've recorded something of each of them. You don't record every one because much of it's the same from one to the other. So there's some feature in each of those that I've quarried, that I've drawn.
Recorded, yeah. Is it on one big?
And well,
If you put it on,
those are on one of the maps. There's a map which is where I've drawn in the town, and there's another map of the surrounding areas to a much smaller scale, but it's the same size, showing all the quarries, where they are, and the naming them, and where I've drawn them, and listing them. And there's a grid on it, so you can, if you want to, it's not in alphabetical order, but if you want to find a quarry, you can go on the grid and find it. So there's 6 aspects. Each one will have a poster, supported by separate additional stuff, because I can't say everything that needs to be said on a poster. Because of a designer, you had to draw everything in all sorts of angles, and then you had to explain it. I developed a good hand, but not printing. I don't like printing. Printing's difficult to read, but it's joined up handwriting, if I can put it like that, italic. It'll have, each section will, like people will have people at the top, and then at the bottom there'll be a strap line which summarises it. In the case of the various people doing the various things, it will say, like a Bruegel landscape, like a Bruegel painting, it's a landscape filled with people. It's not just quarries, and it's not just the town. And they're told all their lives in mines and mills, and hauled, stitched, laid bricks, riveted, farmed the land and fished the perilous seas, managed the home, mended and made do, went hungry and without, endured and eventually agitated, and in many cases even died to bring about the easy life we now enjoy yet take so much for granted. This man and Blaenau speaks for them all.